Nobody survived the first night alone. Researchers excavating a cave site in South Africa found the skull of one of our ancient relatives, nearly 2 million years old. The damage on the bone was not from time, not from pressure. The marks were precise, deep, and made by the jaws of a large predatory cat. The animal had come from behind. There was no wound on the front of the skull, no defensive mark on the arms or hands. This person never saw it coming. That single detail tells you everything about the world our ancestors lived in. And it forces a question we rarely stop to actually think about. Because we are here. Billions of us. Which means, somehow, against those odds, enough ancient humans survived to become us. How? The answer is not what you expect. It is not about weapons. It is not about physical strength. Ancient humans were not faster or more powerful than what hunted them. The cave lion was bigger than a modern lion. The short-faced bear stood nearly 4 meters tall. The giant hyena outweighed most of the humans it pursued. And yet, we survived. They didn't. What ancient humans had was something no predator anticipated. And understanding it changes how you see every instinct you carry right now in your own body. Go back 2 million years. Our earliest ancestors occupied a position in the food chain that is uncomfortable to think about. They were prey. The fossil record from East Africa makes this unavoidable. Skulls punctured by eagle talons, limb bones snapped by leopard jaws. Evidence that early hominins were targeted regularly, from above and below, in daylight and in darkness. But something happens to a species that survives this pressure for hundreds of thousands of years. The mind does not just sharpen. It reorganizes. The ability to read a landscape, to notice the silence of birds that should be calling, to feel the wrongness of a shadow before your eyes have processed its shape. This was not decoration. This was the entire difference between your bloodline continuing and ending. Every ancestor who failed to develop this sensitivity left no descendants. The ones who survived were the ones whose nervous systems had been refined by terror into something extraordinary. And then they did something no other prey species managed to do at scale. They started teaching each other. Not just fear, knowledge, specific, transmittable, generational knowledge about the animals that hunted them, which predators were ambush hunters and which pursued in the open, which times of day carried the highest risk, what a disturbed tree line meant, what it meant when the grazing animals at the waterhole suddenly froze. Ancient humans became the first species on Earth to build a collective intelligence about predator behavior. And they passed it on, deliberately, specifically, to their children and to strangers from other groups. Then, the researchers found something that raised an entirely new question. At Chauvet Cave in southeastern France, discovered in 1994, the walls are covered in some of the oldest known art on Earth, over 32,000 years old. The images are precise, beautiful, rendered with a skill that still impresses modern artists. And the animals painted most frequently are not the deer or horses you might expect. They are lions, cave bears, woolly rhinoceroses, the apex predators of the ancient world. Why would people living in genuine daily fear of these animals choose to cover their most sacred spaces with detailed, loving depictions of them? Why paint the thing that kills you? Researchers now believe the answer cuts deeper than decoration. By rendering the predator in meticulous detail, its posture, its musculature, the way it moved, ancient humans were building something. A mental model. A library of behavioral knowledge preserved in pigment and firelight. These were not portraits made in worship. They were made in study, in the same spirit a modern soldier might draw the weapon of an adversary. Know it completely. Map every feature. Remove the mystery, and you remove some of the terror. But knowing the predator was only half the answer. The other half was fire. Almost no large predator on Earth voluntarily approaches open flame. The moment ancient humans learned to maintain and control fire, not just use it opportunistically, but feed it, carry it, station it deliberately around a camp, the entire dynamic of nighttime survival shifted. Fire did not make ancient humans stronger. It changed what the darkness meant. It sent a signal to every predator within range. Something in this place has changed the rules. And then they added something to the fire that researchers did not fully appreciate until recently. Noise. Deliberate, coordinated group noise. Evidence from multiple ancient campsites and studies of contemporary hunter-gatherer communities confirms that sustained group vocalization is one of the most effective predator deterrents known. Cave lions avoided coordinated groups. Leopards retreat from groups that advance. Even the cave bear, 3 meters tall, the largest land predator of the Pleistocene, would disengage from a group of humans making aggressive, unified sound and moving forward together. Ancient humans learned this through the worst possible classroom, through enough deaths to make the lesson unforgettable. And then they encoded it into group behavior, into culture, into survival protocol passed from one generation to the next. They were not just surviving the predator. They were systematically studying it, countering it, and building community strategies specifically designed around its behavior. And this is where the story becomes genuinely strange. At multiple archaeological sites across Europe and Asia, researchers have found something they did not expect in ancient human burials. Predator remains, not dumped carelessly, placed. A wolf jaw arranged beneath a body, carved bear teeth around a wrist, and at Shanidar Cave, a cave lion's claw laid with intention on the chest of a buried individual. Researchers have debated these finds for decades. The word trophy gets used, but the placement is too careful, too consistent across sites separated by thousands of miles and thousands of years to be casual trophy display. One leading interpretation: the predator was not just feared, it was respected. Its power, its speed, its ferocity, its mastery of the darkness that terrified ancient humans was something they wanted to carry forward. Into death. Into whatever came next. The animal that hunted them had become the animal they honored. The thing that killed them had become the thing that protected them. Here is the counterintuitive truth that rewrites the whole story. We imagine ancient humans and predators in pure opposition. Terror on one side, relentless pursuit on the other. But the evidence points to something more complex. A negotiated awareness built over tens of thousands of years of cohabitation. Groups who had lived in the same territory for generations would have known local predator behavior with the precision of modern field researchers. Which ridgeline was the lion's preferred ambush point? Which season made the hyenas bolder? Which hours were genuinely dangerous and which carried lower risk? They did not live in constant, paralyzing terror. They lived in calibrated alertness. There is a difference. And that difference is what made survival possible. But the most powerful survival technology ancient humans possessed was none of these things. It was each other. At Atapuerca in northern Spain, researchers found the remains of an early human who had lived for years, with a developmental condition so severe it would have made any form of independent survival impossible. This person could not have foraged alone. Could not have fled, could not have contributed in the obvious, transactional sense to the group's survival. And yet, they lived. For years. Cared for, fed, and protected by the humans around them. This single finding is the most important survival fact in this entire story. Because it tells you what actually kept ancient humans alive when the cave lion was real, and the darkness was genuine, and the stakes were not abstract. They stayed together. Not just for efficiency, not just for strategy. They stayed together even when it was costly, even when one member could not contribute, even when protecting that person put others at greater risk. That choice, made in the dark, on a landscape patrolled by the most dangerous predators in the history of this planet, echoes forward across all of human history. It is in every decision to carry the wounded member back instead of leaving them, every alarm call made to warn the group at personal risk to the caller, every fire maintained through the night so that others could sleep. The predator shaped all of it. The threat was the pressure that built the bond. And that bond is still inside you. The hair that rises on the back of your neck in the dark. The freeze response that fires before conscious thought. The instinct to move toward other people when you are afraid, not away from them. These are not quirks of the modern nervous system. These are 2 million years of survival engineering, still running in your body right now, calibrated by every ancestor who paid attention when it mattered. You inherited their fear. You also inherited everything they learned from it. Return to that cave. The claw on the chest. The deliberate placement. The care of it. The people who put it there were not defeated. They had looked at the most dangerous thing in their world for 10,000 generations. They had studied it in firelight and painted it on sacred walls. They had built their entire way of life around understanding it, countering it, surviving it together. And in the end, they placed it with reverence on someone they loved. Not in fear, in recognition. They understood something that took modern science centuries to confirm. The predator did not make them weaker. It made them smarter, more connected, more loyal to each other than any other species on Earth. Ancient humans did not simply escape the predator. The predator made them human.